Awesome. So here we are, Duruk. So cool to be with you again.
Likewise.
And so this conversation is about love, the new operating system. And yeah, you suggested that title, and my logical brain was like, oh, who's gonna, that doesn't really fit the LinkedIn
But
platform.
that's the whole purpose.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, yes, exactly. That's the whole purpose. Because what we're going to explore today is um, just like a way of working, maybe a way of living, a way of uh, doing things or creating things that is different from the norm, right? And not just because we want to be different, but because it feels like there's something more innate and authentic to us that wants to emerge, wants to be expressed. And for some people, this will resonate, for others, it won't. But if it resonates, or even if you have questions, anybody has questions, we would love if you comment on the post because we would love to explore that. Yeah, Derek, what would you like to say about this to start
Thank
off?
you for the introduction. Minutes ago, we were actually testing the system, and this made us remember how we connected almost a year ago. And for the ones who are new to our contemplations, I just would like to take a minute to maybe share our history a little bit. Everything started almost a year ago, maybe even more than a year ago. Time really flies. When I started thinking about how we can bring more of ourselves into the business, how we can bring more of the heart intention that really moves our spirit to the business world instead of only operating with our minds and limiting ourselves with structured modalities that currently exist in our today's world. So, as an entry point to those conversations, I started writing some newsletters with the titles of "What Would Rumi Teach at Harvard Business School?" So, how can we bring more of that heart wisdom, the wisdom of a poet, into the business world and hopefully create new opportunities, new thinking that can allow us to truly honor first human potential and through our human potential the business potential too. So I started loudly talking about love as an operating system in the business world, and this actually pulled it in, and that was the only reason for me to share as well. Like, whenever we share the intentions of our hearts authentically, that can also help us to connect to the right individuals who share the same values, so we can co-create together and we can explore new things and how we can create these new things. So Ethan reached out to me because he was also exploring similar concepts, and he was happy to see another human being bringing this taboo concept of love into the serious business world. So that's actually how we connected, and I think we are the living example of this, bringing more love into our own businesses, into our own lives as well. It just started with two people thinking differently or being open enough. And to me,
Mm,
love is that openness, that unity, that voice in you calling for something different. If you can listen to that, we both did, it can connect you to new opportunities, new verticals, and you can take new angles from that operating point of view, which might be slightly different. Like, both of us, we don't even know how our journey will evolve. It just started with one message, then it turned out to be one conversation with a pause in between. Now we have this regular contemplations where we share both of our journeys, both of our explorations, and hopefully bringing more of a different practicality into the business world, not neglecting the importance of the mind, the practical systems that we need to bring into the world, but doing it with more consciousness, doing it with more purpose driven mindsets, and bringing more diversity and inclusivity into the world. So,
mm.
to me, this is just another extension of us practicing love as a new operating system and inviting others. to do the same, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think what you said about openness is one of the qualities that love has. So sometimes I think this question. So we've got a question here, and I'm going to put that on the screen from Nina. Thanks, Nina. So people have
Hi,
different
Nina.
definitions of love, especially exploring it at work.
Yes,
So, um,
let's start from there. What does love mean? Which was the first question that actually we unpacked almost a year ago, but I think
yes,
it's worthwhile to repeat it. What does love
yeah,
mean to you, Ethan?
yeah, yeah. Um, initially when I was thinking about it, it was like, oh, okay, what are the things I love, or expressing love to other people and so forth. And those are some of the dimensions, but there's also just an overall a different a different energy, different qualities that I relate to love. Like with when I'm really say with my son or my daughter and um so present with them and just just feeling love for them, I
Mhm.
feel open in my heart. So that what you said, openness, that's one of the qualities. And if we even just look at one quality of openness, what does that do, right? Openness means that we can actually listen because we're not closed off. We can actually listen. We can actually communicate. We can actually understand. Openness means we are letting go of old beliefs, old thoughts, judgments, stories. So we have space for something new. So it's the space for creativity, space for innovation. Openness is like even moving from in the office to remote work. That required openness. Sure, it was kind of forced upon us in that sense. We were forced to be open to that. But equally, we could have been open to that ourselves. Um, so when somebody shows up in a contrast to an old way of being, which might be quite rigid or based on the past or based on seeking something or being fearful, you can feel it. There's a different feeling. And if you have ever had a leader or a mentor or even a friend who shows up with that open heart, then you know the difference that it makes to you. And it's no different at work than at home than at uh, the pub or anything else. Where when we are in contact with that, we open up as well. And that means new possibilities for us individually and together. But yeah, Derek, how about you? What comes to you when you see this question?
Beautifully said. To me, love is a state of being. And in today's world, we usually affiliate that state of being where we can truly be ourselves, be vulnerable, be open as who we really are, mostly in very intimate settings. In romantic concepts, so when we think about love, the first thing that comes to mind is really romantic love or the love that you feel for your family members, very close
Mm,
relationships. To me, that is actually the problem. We are not bringing all of ourselves, all of the capacity that we have as a human being into the business world, because when you come into the business world you need to shut down that human dimension of you, that connecting, loving, open, vulnerable dimension of you, because you have to play according to rules of the game, which is so serious, which is by its nature of seriousness too limiting, too fear based, and too competitive in its nature. Again, let's use analogies from the normal concepts that we feel at love with. What does it mean? to love someone romantically? What does it mean to love your family? That's the first state where we can go beyond our egoistic selves and we accept another person's being as a part of our existence. Co creation, it's like two energies co creating together. To me, love is that openness, that vulnerability where you have the courage to go beyond your self identity. And it
Yes.
comes with that welcoming sense, with that openness. It invites more diversity into your sense of perception of the world because you are not
Mm,
only seeing it through your eyes, you are also seeing it through your lover's eyes, your daughter's eyes, your father's, mother's eyes. And for that possibility to expand your mind, love holds the space. And
mm,
to me, I think that is the human dimension that we are lacking in the business. What if we bring that all potential we have to the business world for more inclusivity, for more understanding each other, for more openness, space to exist so we can hear each other, we can welcome different perspectives and point of views, and we can also accept that we are not machines as if we perceive it to be in today's business world. No one is the king or the queen. Every CEO is a person with their own vulnerabilities, things that they are trying to overcome in their own personal spaces. Again, I'm not really trying to cloud the importance of some certain guidelines and rules that we always need to operate in a collective context in society and business. There needs to be some structure, some certain cultural elements that brings more, hopefully, the right healthy ecosystem for us to exist. So we shouldn't really bring all of our existential traumas to the business
mm,
world. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I think we can bring more of the humanity back to the business world and acknowledge that we are all human beings going through a journey together. And business can be a powerful venue where we
mm,
practice this potential of us being humans coming together collectively towards a common vision. And to me, love is that glue, that why, that unity factor that brings us together too.
mm,
Sometimes in the business world, we are so lost in operations, in beating the competition, thinking that there's a limited pie that we have to extract value from, that we literally forget why we are operating in this space at the first place. And to me, why is that grounding factor as well, that unity? Why are we in this? And bringing that essence to everything we do. So, in a nutshell, love is a state of being where we can bring more unity, more vulnerability, all of us into the business, so that in the business context as well, we can create more openness for different perspectives, more openness for trust, for collaboration to happen. So instead of really competing with each other, we can honor our differences. And through those differences, we can create something beautiful while we are growing the journey to gift back amazing things in the form of services that others can benefit as well.
mm. Yeah. I love what you said, Dirk. And this, like, I mean, we can easily have like an 8-part series on this because there's so many different levels at which we can talk about this. And Nina, if you're still there, like, feel free to add any other follow-up questions if you like, whether we've answered something
We
or
would
not.
love to actually hear your definition too, if there is anything that you would like to add on.
Yeah. But when you said about the state of being, right? It's like it's something that we've all experienced. So sometimes our minds say, "Well, what does that even mean, love at work?" And yet, if we are like just quiet for a moment, sometimes we can feel like we have experienced that at moments when we have felt really open, when we have felt um, inspired or at our best, or really part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yes.
Like that's what we're talking about. And when we are in that state of being, we see different things. We are different people. actually in that state of being. We say different things. We connect with people in a different way, and examples of that, like I put that just in the post that I posted 2 hours ago of Patagonia and Yvonne Chouinard. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the founder
Founder,
of Patagonia. Yeah,
easier.
that yes, and how he created it, and all the radical ideas of how he created Patagonia and the philosophies behind it. That is somebody who's open, who doesn't see things as they are or as they should be or have to be, or the ways that they have been done, but he's just guided by his heart. He sees something that, oh, these things are being left in nature when people climb mountains. I'd like to create it so that we leave nature untouched as much as possible. That's what led him to create his first product. And then when he expressed from his heart what he loved, people were drawn to him, right? People felt it in their hearts and they were drawn to him. And then from there, it's like, well, if we drew these people to us who love nature and who love exploring nature and experiencing nature, we can't chain them to the desk. That doesn't make any sense, right? So even though that's how things are done, on
Yes.
oh, this is how you have a productive team, you have to all stay there and have structured times and so on. But that's not what was aligned with his own heart. So back to what you said, like bringing his whole self and saying what actually feels right here. I want a team who can actually flow with the rhythm of life. So when the surf is up, they can go surfing
Yeah.
in the middle of the office day. They don't have to. There's no excuses or anything. They can just go. They can bring their babies to work. We'll have a childcare center right here. So this is a tangible ways that love actually can direct the course of a whole business.
Beautifully said. I think you're also touching upon an important concept that's currently emerging as a new thinking in the business world too. This concept of conscious business. I think
Mm,
historically we were always believing that if we do things differently and bring more outlier lovey-dovey things into the business world, it will be to the detriment of the outcomes, and we will not have the desired financial results at the end of the
yes,
journey. But there are so
yes,
many examples. I think Patagonia is one. The founders of the conscious business concept, they also shared quite a lot of examples. One of them was actually the founder of Whole Foods as well. So there
mm,
are so many emerging examples. Patagonia, Whole Foods. I think Zappos was another company that
yeah,
really changed the rules of the game too. They paid so much attention to customers in an unusual way with like free returns and everything. And in terms of employees as well, if I recall it right, they had a pay to quit policy. If you get into the company and after the training you realize that it's not aligned with what you had in mind, the company was paying you to quit because they really cared about that internal alignment with their value systems. And when you
mm,
look into the papers like HR work, like, hey, you're paying an employee to quit, like that doesn't make any sense. But
yes,
according to the values of the company, according to the aspirations of the founder and what kind of value system that they are trying to create, it made absolute sense. And when you look
mm,
into the financial results, these companies were the ones actually bringing new dimensions into the business world, but also thriving. But
mm,
also, I think for this to happen, there might need to be a different perspective in terms of evaluation too. This is a new paradigm, and yes, for new paradigms to find successful venues, it might take a little bit longer.
mm,
And to me, also another dimension that love brings in our today's business world, we are so obsessed with short term results. And that really clouds our thinking. We create things, that might move the numbers in the short term, but over the longer term, there is
Yes.
so much potential I think we are wasting in terms of the value that we can create for our customers. There are so
Mm.
many beautiful practices and cultural elements that we can incorporate into the business for the long term sustainability and health of our employees. But all of these practices requires trust,
Yeah.
collaboration, collaborative decision making, and it might take longer. And again, coming back to what does it feel like to bring love into the business? I think other dimensions that we can talk and think about is really how it impacts decision making, how it impacts goal setting and everything. In the old world, it's really top down, as if human beings are really like assets on numbers on an Excel
Mhm.
sheet. It's literally senior leaders making decisions, and as employees in the sheets, just numbers, executing upon them. In the new world, when we open ourselves and create the right ecosystems, cultures with that love and openness, a common vision at the center, that brings more collaboration, coordination, empowerment of the individuals. So, delegating more of the things to the front lines, educating the front lines, hiring the right people, like Zappos did, but also making sure that those people are empowered in the most powerful ways, training them continuously, giving back to your employees as if you would invest into your customers too. So that's also, I think, another important dimension. The motto of today is really customer is the king. Every company wants to satisfy the customer. Beautiful. But how can you differentiate your customer from your employees as well? Why don't we also think about this is again that internal external thing? We are so obsessed about external competition, the
Mhm.
market. Let's meet the needs of the market. That is our reason for existence. But let's also not
Yes.
neglect the company, the employees, and their well being and their cultural values. That's going to deliver that value. So, coming back to your point as well, in the Patagonia example, the more that you let your employees to be fully themselves as well, leave those values that you would like to offer to your customers, then your customers can resonate with your employees more because your employees will be the ones interacting with the customers every day. To me, these are all different dimensions of bringing that love, respect, diversity, inclusion, empowerment into the business world. And it literally reverses the system. Instead of top down, competitive mindset, controlling, limiting mindset, it really opens the system by
Mhm.
bringing people who are driven by the same values into the company, empowering them, teaching them, letting them to collaborate, learn from each other, create open and transparent systems for the ecosystem to see what's working, what's not. And of course, as a leader, you can still make sure that there are some directional guidelines, vision, operating principles. But instead of really a top down machinery where people can just be numbers in the game, why don't we leverage the full potential of humans coming together for a collective vision dedicated to some core values and letting them to experiment, letting them to grow, bring their different strengths together.
Yeah.
And that creates a different decision making modality, that creates a different culture, that creates a different goal setting system too. There is more room, for example, for exploration, for creativity, not
Mm.
that egoistic thinking that we know everything and we can plan the next 5 years. Everyone knows that it's just numbers game.
Yes.
So humanizing business, but also honoring human potential so that human beings driven towards a common vision can
Mm.
create beautiful things. And this can also inspire their family life. This can also inspire the society. That's also a very important dimension that really motivates personally for me about the role of business. In today's world, business is one of the most important pillars in our society. If we can make businesses healthy, with healthy leadership, with healthy education, with healthy cultural elements behind it, this can really heal our families. This can heal our society because
Mm.
healthy employees will bring the same presence back to their homes. They will be more happy, more
Yes.
present, more loving individuals in the society as well.
Mm.
So it doesn't stop in business as well, although it starts in business, or business is a
Yes.
nice place to start to have one of the biggest impacts in the world. I
Yeah.
believe this deeply.
Yeah. And I think what you're pointing at, Doruk, is like it touches every element because wholeness really is you can't separate love from wholeness. Like,
Yep.
and it works at every level. So whole within ourselves, you know, bringing the whole of ourselves, and um, we have to experience self love. The internal external thing is similar to if I don't love parts of myself, and every one of us has parts of ourselves that we don't love, and it's our journey to work on that. No, but how does that relate to work? Well, if there's parts of myself that I can't accept, then there's parts of other people that I can't accept either. And I
Yes.
love what Nina said. So Nina did put another comment here. Love is accepting and
Yes.
respecting people and the beauty we all have. Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, so there's whatever we can't accept, we will avoid, we will run away from, or we will close off something there. And we're actually closing off a part of ourselves, which is a part of our genius.
Yes.
So then we'll have a collective of people, which we usually have now, a collective of people who are just showing fragments of themselves and rejecting parts of other people. And that's why it's so beautiful when you experience, like, even if you go to, let's say you go to a concert, and for a moment you feel like you're transcended, it's like everybody is into the music. It's because those judgments and so on have fallen away, and you feel like everybody's open, everybody's in sync and flowing together, and that's a beautiful feeling. So what we're talking about here is nurturing that within ourselves and letting that feeling be what moves us, whether it's at work or at home.
Yeah. You actually highlighted a very important point with practical implications in business. If we are not bringing all of ourselves into the world, including the business world, or most of the business world, where we actually shut down our emotional part or that loving part most of the time, we are not fully utilizing our potential as humans. And love, unlike its perception, is the most powerful thing in the world. Think about an experience in your world, in your personal life, where you were experiencing love to the fullest extent. How many times that love empowered you to do the things that you didn't really even think was possible for you? Because love gives you that wholeness, that courage that helps you to step outside of your boundaries of fear. And you can only do that if you can connect to that whole power in you that only comes from love. And
Mm,
to me, this looks like a very hypothetical concept, but there are so many implications in the personal world. And when we look into these companies who are bringing all of their selves, letting people to be themselves holistically in the business world as well, like Patagonia, like Zappos and others, like we discussed, they are actually creating new values because they can go beyond the traditional fear of the ecosystem. So,
yes.
unlike its perception, love is not something that's gonna take your power away. Indeed, it is the only most powerful thing that can help us to overcome our fears in the personal space, but also exercise truly genius, original innovations in the business world too. To me, that is actually the biggest dilemma. We just
Mm,
perceive that if we are vulnerable, in the business world, if we can open that space for unknown to exist, for experimentation to exist, so that we can trust, surrender to the collective wisdom, we're just going to fail in the financial results. But what
mm,
if the opposite is true? through that trust, through that surrender, through that investment into the collective wisdom, we get something beautiful out of it that we might
Yes.
not be able to get if we are limited with our fear based operating models of today,
Mm,
assuming that there is a limited pie, assuming that we can only win if someone else loses. We need to switch that. Someone doesn't need to
mm,
lose for us to collectively win. You are different. I am different. I have a different value. You have a different value. And in the ecosystem, too, companies' differences, what companies stand for, could be also creating more value for the ecosystem instead of really replicating each other, imitating each other. If we can truly go to why we exist, find that love internally that brings the people together as well. To me, that's also another reflection of the fear mindset in the business. There are so many businesses purely imitating each other. It's just replicas. And in the
yes.
companies, you see this as a strategy statement. Beat the market leader X.
Hmm.
And it assumes that you can beat X within the access standards that they set in the economy. There is no way that you can beat X. It's 10 times larger than you. It is playing according to its game, its values, its definition. You need to find your own space, create your own space. And for that space to exist, you need to connect to yourself as a company. What differentiates you instead of really trying to mimic the other one? And that's really a
Mm,
fearful mindset. A loving mindset allows you to really define what is your why and stick to it. As a culture, finding the right people, investing in the right people that will live with that why instead of really creating limitations around what and how. I think we
yeah.
need to pay more attention to why. And that why is the loving power that triggers the action, that really gives a meaning to what you do as a company, who you hire as a company, how you serve as a company.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. When um, you're pointing people inwards, and when we when we look inside, we can feel whether we are looking to survive or whether we feel like we are thriving. There's a difference in feeling. And I don't just mean in terms of material results, but like um, how we actually relate to ourselves and how we relate to our work in the world. Are we surviving or are we thriving? I watched the series about Theranos. Theranos, the
Yes.
yeah,
I didn't watch the series, but I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Okay.
So that was outwardly thriving, a $1 billion company, but all based on fear, all based on aiming for something out of fear and then strategizing how to get there. And a whole group of people then taking on that energy and following along, and everybody fearful. And I think we've all had that experience where we've intuitively felt something was right, and we're kind of questioning what's going on. We see what's going on, and we feel the pressure to go with it, but intuitively we feel something else is right, and maybe we do or we don't have the courage to question what's happening. And I think that is um, when we have love as the operating system, that is what allows us to voice those questions, or to say, well, this is not the way I want to do things, and the way I want to do things is possible, even though nobody's doing it. and I'm either going to speak that into existence, or I'm going to find other people who also see that possibility. So what we're talking about here is really like radical change or innovation has to come from that space.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. And that there's one more question here, so I'm going to put Lauren's question. Thanks so much, Nina. And yeah,
Thank
feel
you,
free
Nina. I
to
really
post.
appreciate it.
And so this is Lauren.
Oh my God. Hi, Lauren. Amazing to see you. Thank you.
So I'd love to hear more examples of how we can do this. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think there are really standard examples, well known and literally published as case studies at Harvard Business School too. Lauren's actually one of the coaches at Harvard Business School, like years
Oh,
ago.
amazing.
She was one of the okay, you're bringing the same one. I thought that's a different question.
Sorry,
She
yes.
was one of the amazing coaches. I get quite a lot of support when I was exploring this as a future path that I want to explore. It took me quite some time, Lauren, but here I am. So beyond the examples that we already shared, like Patagonia, like Zappos, Whole Foods, I think there are so many examples that are emerging. And hopefully, our intention is to bring this into the forefront. And hopefully, even during these conversations, even us, like Ethan and myself, showcasing what we can create through love during our collaboration, we are also demonstrating how things can evolve without really certain boundaries, without certain goals and settings. We will be sharing more examples, and we are also advising and supporting new entrepreneurs. The more that they have successful outcomes, I think we will be bringing those examples back to these conversations. And through little small impact, we will be showcasing that a different operating system that's more open, that's based on love, can also bring more innovation, more disruptive innovation, more creative expressions into the world too. But even before we get there, because I think long term results can still take some time and there is a change happening in the world. And I expect things to start showcasing results over the next few years more frequently. What Ethan was suggesting was also an important thing. How can we bring more of individual expansion into what we do in business? Like when I started this journey, I was still a technology leader. And it just started me bringing more of myself into the business. And I've always done that before too. Although it was quite an outlier, I realized that when I was working, for example, for Roche, a biotech company, we were trying to improve health, but I didn't really have enough supporting ecosystem for employees. So through engagement with the company leaders, as a product manager, not with so much power at the time, I was a recent grad with a couple of years of experience. I literally created a campaign with the senior leaders for them to invest into the dancing classes and yoga and Pilates class of the employees. And we created a club where every employee had the opportunity to practice this, supported by the company. So this is just another example of bringing all of yourself, all of your interests into the business. You don't have to be a CEO of a company to bring what you love or all of yourself into the business. So you can start with your individual lives, bringing more of the things that you're passionate about. And through that demonstration, you can be the embodiment of the change that you would like to see in the world. Again, coming back to our interaction points a year ago when I started my journey with being more vocal about the things that I would like to see changing in the world, I started writing Eaton Connected through that. And now we are exploring new verticals like regular interactions. This is our first live. And on the side, we are doing so many other different things. And hopefully, this can inspire someone else to do the same. Like, oh, one person was talking about love and business. Now it's two people talking about love and business. Oh, they are creating this product, that product, and this support system. Oh, there are also quite a lot of outcomes that are improved with this operating system, and these people are sharing the results. So it could be at the individual level, it could be at the collaboration level. And of course, I also would like to use this as an opportunity for any of the leaders who might be listening to this conversation. if you can open the space in the business, that can create the most powerful impact as well. Because the leadership support, leadership engagement, and leadership making this not a tick in the box in terms of what they have to do, but embedding this ecosystem, openness, diversity, inclusivity, empowerment into the core of their vision, the impact is tremendous. The impact would be tremendous because we all have so many unique gifts that we can bring if our leaders can also bring this space into the business for that innovation to exist.
Mm, wow. Um, yeah, I think you know, in your examples, Doruk, like you had your way of. It sounds like you gave yourself permission at some point to listen to yourself or listen to your heart and notice what it wanted to create or notice what was missing and give yourself permission to add it yourself. And I think that's probably one of the biggest blocks. And in my work with clients as well, is people making that leap from just sort of seeing problems and being frustrated of feeling a lack of something and being frustrated to doing something about it, to seeing that they can do something about it,
Exactly.
and even considering like giving themselves permission in a sense. And this, like, I had a client who was one way at home, very warm with her kids, and then at work was just no bullshit, just it's like get the work done. And and that was just because that's how she learned that things had to be in business, right? And they had. And I'm not saying that there weren't pressures. There were. It's just that she had bought into this fully, so that this is the only way I can be successful at
Yeah.
work. And the first piece of work we had to do was to have her question that belief. Just enough, just loosen it just enough to be like, okay, well, how about in this very next conversation, I listen to this person in a different way. I'm no longer listening just to be like, okay, do they know the answer or not? Are they right or wrong? Because otherwise, I'm going to give them the answer, and it's my answer is better than theirs. You know? And just this experience, like just slight loosening of showing up with more openness, more listening, more love, opened that crack of, oh, this was very different, right? So when we connected again after that conversation, she noticed this was different. I noticed things about that person and what they were saying and possibilities, and I felt more connected with this person. So it's these little steps that each of us are able to take if we even allow ourselves
Yeah.
to do that.
Beautiful example. And maybe one more thing. So you can incorporate practices that you embody personally and bring them back to the business as an individual, like I shared in my personal example. It would be lovely if these practices are proactively incorporated at the leadership level too. But if you are somewhere in between, you have a small team, you can also use this as an opportunity to practice more of the values for bringing more diversity, inclusivity, inviting people to be more of themselves as well. So, in my previous engagement with my team members, I was the one proactively inviting my team members to bring more of their selves, including their hobbies, what makes them more creative, more expressive on the personal side, back into the business too. And we were cautiously incorporating this during our team meetings, retreats. It's not something that you might expect in a business setting where you are supposed to review
Mm.
quarterly goals and what you are going to do to reach those goals, but literally creating space for that human connection to happen in different shape or form, and incorporating different learning styles and personalities of the individuals might be also another layer. So what I would like to end is really with a question mark, regardless of where you are in the organization, whether you are an individual or a manager with a smaller team or the leader bringing the cultural values together. How can you start even small and embody the change that you would like to see in the world, in your own world?
Mm, mm.
Our
Yes.
answers might be different, but that could be a good starting point. What
Yeah, I
can you
think
do this week to incorporate
yes.
more of that? Like, create a conversation during a coffee break, write something about it, publish a
Yes.
newsletter, share your views,
Yeah.
join communities around the same values. So I think the traditional way is really always joining organizations. It might be a personal style, but I believe that if we share more of who we really are, we can connect to other individuals like us as well. So I would like to take this also as another invitation for everyone to consider how they can share more of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny that I was in a conversation with somebody and we were talking about LinkedIn and what is kind of accepted on LinkedIn and so forth. But then actually if you look at the posts which really they get widely shared by hundreds and thousands of people, those are the ones that are the most human,
Yes.
you know? It's
Yeah.
not just I got this certificate from AWS or whatever, right? It's like it's real human challenges where somebody has been through something really tough and come out on the other side, or somebody who's still in something really tough and just opening their heart, asking for help. Those are the posts that actually hit us deeply
Yes.
because they speak to something it's like we know is there.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
don't let it out that often.
Yeah, I think what you're highlighting is very, very important, Ethan. We are all unique, and that's the beauty that we can all bring different gifts to the world, but we are also very similar by the nature of us being human. And love is the level that brings that unity. If we can connect to that human dimension, we can all feel each other. And your experience might be different than mine, but we both know what grief means, loss means, what it means to be passionate about something. Like the triggers might be very individual, but I think the core pillars, the things that we can unite around, are quite universal. And it's really important to bring that dimension back into the business through storytelling, through bringing all of our lives back to the business. So it's not really like machines
Mm,
interacting with an Excel sheets. It's like human beings with feelings, with inspiration. Like I really care about inspiration. Inspiration literally is coming from a roots that means breathing into. So you breathe life into things, and you can only do that if you can connect to that human love emotion level. And one concrete example about this, when I was in healthcare, when we had real life experiential results coming from
mhm.
the patients, when we had company meetings, when we invited the patients into the conversation and they were able to share the results in their human experience, that was the moment that really brought tears to our eyes and literally connected all of us around the same goals and vision, not as a percentage that we have to hit, as something that we can see, touch, feel. And I think I briefly mentioned this in my previous conversation about love and business, but such an interesting coincidence. I worked for two companies. Roche, Genentech Biotech, and after that, Elsevier. And I'm not going to reveal too much personal details about my mother, but my mother's life was saved by the products of these two companies. Like,
Wow.
I will not remember this moment. I am signing I'm asking my mother to sign a document to take a treatment that was produced by Roche, and I was a product manager supporting the launch of that in Turkey. And she was able to get this treatment by the research published by Elsevier. And I will never ever forget that moment. This moment is not really me being a product manager, accomplishing some certain goals for some
Mm,
financial results. This is
yes.
literally me somehow being a part of the solutions that saved my mother, who is still alive and healthy today. And that is the power of humanity.
Wow.
And there is nothing more magical than that. And that is what really breathes life into us. So I could be more creative, more ambitious, overcome
Mm,
the things that were limiting before. I can think about outside on the boundaries of limitations. I can co create with others who are inspired by the same values. And to me, that is really a life worthwhile living, a
yeah.
business worthwhile spending your time for, life for.
Wow.
That's truly honoring human potential.
Yes. Like in you sharing that story, Duruk, like I'm sure anybody who hears that will experience viscerally what you're talking about. And I think that's what I mean, that's beautiful because that's what we're pointing to.
Yeah.
What we're pointing to is not just a concept, but something you actually feel in your body when you actually connect with um, what it means to be human, what you truly care about, your love for the people around you, and your desire to lift the people that you care about, and to create something beautiful. Like that's not a concept. This is something actually innate in us. And what we're saying is there's been a way of creating in the world which was something that evolved from manufacturing, so it was a manufacturing kind of mindset which only used certain parts of us, only needed certain parts of us. We're like brains with hands, really. And but there's more to us. So what happens if that starts to become the norm? Yeah.
We can make this world beautiful.
Yeah, and we do that just from within, um, and we've all experienced that. We might be down, and then a friend comes in who's just got that light in them, and we can't help it, but it touches something within us. So thank you, Tor, for sharing something so personal.
Thank you for creating
um,
this space. Thank you, Lauren, for the
yes,
question too.
yes, and we've got one more question. I think we still have time for that. So Nate,
Oh my
thank you,
God,
Nate.
hi Nate.
Is that another of your?
Oh, yeah, my colleague.
Yeah, wonderful. People being vulnerable, real with their posts, peels away the sterile anonymity of social media.
Nate is a pro at self inquiry.
We all
Oh,
crave that connection, but for
yes.
me, it's so difficult to put that kind of realness out there. I guess I have some reflection and journaling to do. Nate,
You
as
are already
you've
doing that, Nate. I
yes,
think what you need is really a mirror that's reflecting who you really are and how, with your own presence, you are carrying that. Regardless whether you're bringing to the digital world or not, you are such a blessing with your presence, inviting others to be more of themselves.
yeah,
Um, to me, there's always a power in digital media that can really broaden our reach. So there's so much limitations. I am such a supportive of ethical use of technology, meaning that it shouldn't really negate our humanness, but
mm,
it can also enhance our humanness. Like without this technology, I wouldn't be able to connect with Ethan, who is on the other side of the pond. So there are always opportunities that we can explore with technology in terms of extending our natural presence too. It is not easy though. I think it requires some practice to be fully yourself on the screen.
Yeah.
But definitely you have that innate presence that you always bring anywhere you go, Nate, and that's really an inspiration for anyone who had an opportunity to work with you too. I just would like to reflect that back.
Yeah. And I think practice, like you said, I think it's the understanding that there's no kind of perfection in this, because once we have the awareness of this, right? And Nate, you've already highlighted this, so you're already seeing this, so you're well aware of this desire in you for connection and for realness. So that's already started the process.
Yeah.
Um, and then the best we can do is just allow that process to take place. So if there's a desire to add a smiley, we add a smiley like you did here, right? Or um, or to joke, or to share something personal, or to say what ask a question that matters to us. Um, yeah, it's been a process for me and for Dirk. You know, many times I tried to record videos in the past or send a message, and I'll be rewriting and rewriting and re-recording, like over and over. And the even the idea of getting on a live like this and talking with no script would have scared the life out of me, right? And so looking back, it was just a process. And sometimes I would judge myself of, oh my God, I'm so awkward here, or I can't be like this, and so on. Or why am I not this way? And those are just ways for us to slow ourselves down. But just in the process of just listening to that desire, I think that's it. And it doesn't even have to be social media. It can be like at the shop, when we see somebody there in the shop and we see they've got a family photo behind them, and we feel a little desire to ask about it. Well, let's just follow that. And I think that's, yeah, that little permission to just kind of follow that real desire for connection.
Thank you, making it more practical, Ethan.
Yeah.
I can only echo it's a process. Um, we can just start small in more safer context, in more smaller groups, whatever makes us feel comfortable. And the more that we practice, the more that I think we become more comfortable with being who we really are in every context. And personally, this has been a lifelong journey. Whenever I felt like anything limiting in any context, this is just one example, but in any context, it will just trigger this inquiry opportunity. Like, where is this coming from? Am I
Mm,
still looking for external validation in different shape or form? Like, what are things that I need to include in me more? First, accept myself more, become more integrated, become more loving towards myself more, so that I can open and hold that space internally, personally for myself. And from that safe expansion, healthy expansion, I can share it with others in different shape or form, whether it's in small group in real life, whether it's broader in digital context, but everything starts with us reuniting with all of the parts that we don't feel worth to share in the first
yeah,
place. So to me,
yeah,
it's really is such a big journey about welcoming all of yourself and feeling
yes,
comfortable with all of yourself too, so that you vibrate that energy in all contexts, whether in person or digitally. But it's a lifelong journey that I think
yeah,
we all are going through as human beings
yeah,
on Earth.
yeah. And then when we fail, so to speak, oh, I wasn't real that time. Like accepting that as well, right? And every that there's always an opportunity. Like this moment is always a fresh opportunity to accept ourselves and be real. Yeah, and like yesterday, for example, I felt very far away from love as my operating system. Yesterday I felt like, oh, I was overwhelmed. There was too much to do. I wasn't getting stuff done, distracting myself, and I could feel a judgment coming in. And at some point, realizing that's okay. And when that acceptance is there, um, those stories just fall away by themselves. And I believe that love is our natural operating system, although
So
we
it's
practice,
clouded.
yeah, we've practiced something else for a long time. But in the moments when we allow ourselves, or we stop practicing it for a while because we're just so moved, but in the moment, like with your mom, we stop practicing all those things and then we fall into our natural selves.
Faithfully said. Life might be a long journey, but every day is an opportunity. Every
Mm,
moment where we had that realization is an opportunity. And whenever
mm,
I fall into that trap of falling out of life, which is our natural state, the moment I realize it is the moment where I can just take a deep breath, connect to that inner essence, and just like first forgive myself,
yes.
accept myself. Then from that loving space, dig deeper because there's an
Mm,
opportunity for reframing things on the mind too. But it's only healthier to do it once we just take that deep breath, connect to that love, that openness, so that we can dig deeper and hopefully rewire things in a more
yeah.
accepting, loving, and open way. First internally, and
Mm,
hopefully we can find ways of reflecting that externally in our
mm,
families, in our businesses, in our society. At least that is my
yeah.
intention for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we're slightly over. So I was thinking maybe in closing, we can we can each talk just a little bit about why we wanted to have this conversation and going back to the why from our heart. So I'm happy to share what comes up for me. For me, this whenever I've connected with who I really am, when I felt that wholeness, it has been the most beautiful experience. And whenever I'm with clients and they touch that, sometimes they feel like they haven't connected with that, with who they are for 30 years. And when they connect with that, it's such a beautiful moment. It's like a moment of release, of a breath, and you feel a whole load of shoulds and rules and everything just fall away, and you're left just with that person, and everything seems possible. And I just love that. And I want everybody to experience that and to live from that and to create from that and to know what it is to be in the world that way.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Ethan. Beautiful intention. To me, it's actually what makes me alive, what makes me feel life is worthwhile living. For a long time in my own life, I think I was always feeling a lack of something, searching in different shape or form, whether a romantic love or an enhancements in career or something, but there was always something missing. Apparently, it was me searching for that unity, that love, that openness. That
Sorry,
really
my son.
revealed.
1 minute.
That revealed the connection, beauty of connection, human connection that really brings all of our gifts to the world. And I think we are all unique. We are all beautiful. We all have different gifts give back to the world. And we can only do that if we can connect to that inner, accepting, loving, vulnerable point that really makes us human, that really makes us feel that connection to the love around us all the time. So, from that grounding, we can fully be alive and give back to the life in our unique and different ways. And to me, this is really what really makes my life worthwhile. Like, how can I practice this, embody this every day, and use life as a mirror that shows me what are still the things that I need to work on. What are the limitations? What are the things that I need to practice and open more? And you can do this personally. You can do this within the context of safe relationships. But why not to do it in business too? Because business is where we spend literally half of our lives in today's world. Like, why
Mhm.
are we separating our humanness from the business? And
Mm,
acknowledging that business is the most powerful institution in today's world. That's where we spend most of our lives. Most of us spend more time in business compared to our families or personal lives. Why don't we use it as a venue for practicing more humanness and bringing more human potential to the service of all so we can heal collectively as a society too. So it's a reflection of my personal journey, but it's also, I think, such a catalyzer in today's world where we can really create a significant change to do things better
mm,
for all and everyone, and hopefully create beautiful reflections of our diversity in the world in different shape of products, in different shape of services. To me, that's my intention. We are all
mm.
beautiful, and why not to bring more of that beauty into business? Why don't we really co-create together towards common goals and beautify our world? That's my intention. That's my why.
Amazing. Yeah, this has been great. I've loved the interaction as well. It's our first live, like you said,
Yes.
and thank you so much for the questions. Anybody who watches this later, please feel free to add more questions or message either of us, and we'll get to it in another video. And there's one final comment here, which I thought was amazing. Like, thank you for that message of love.
Thank you. Hi. More emotions over there. We love emojis.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so
Thanks so
much,
much, Doug.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Much love.
Much love.